All right, we are going to be going over review questions from your test review, which you're going to see on your test. So feel free to skip around if there's just one particular question you're not sure about how to do. Jump there. They're numbered up at the top. All right, question number 1 says, write an inequality for the following statement. So on question number 1 or question number 1 or anything like it, I'm just going to translate. So it says 3, so I'm going to write down a 3 is less than. So 3 is less than or equal to B. So since it says less than, I'm going to make the smaller side come first, or equal to B. And that's it. Question number 2 is going to look like this. It's going to ask you to write an inequality from some sort of context, some sort of story. So it says the temperature inside the lab refrigerator is no more than 45 degrees. Remember, you have that cheat sheet of all the terms, but I can kind of decipher what no more than means by asking myself, hey, T is the temperature. I'm going to write down T. Hey, and if it is no more than 45 degrees, hey, think of a refrigerator. I want it to be less than. Okay, so less than. If I say no more than 45, am I okay with it being equal? Yes. So less than or equal to 45. My second question on this example says the distance nearest to the exit door is at most 200 feet. So D, at most 200 feet. Okay, so if it's at most 200 feet, that's the top. So I want everything below it or equal to it. So less than or equal to again. Remember, we have that list of at most means less than or equal to, at least, if you see at least, greater than or equal to. Question number 3 and 4 are going to be asking you to graph the inequality. So they might look like one of these two problems. So you're going to have a graph. Here's 0, -1, -2, 1. Remember, when we graph, we use this as our starting point. So I'm going to put an open circle here for a second, and then I'm going to look and see, does it have the or equal to? And if it does, I'm going to fill in that dot. This says that B is greater than, so I'm going to point my arrow in the direction of greater. The second problem says graph the inequality, y is less than -5. So I'm going on my number line. Let's say here's -5, -4, -6. I'm going to put my starting point at -5. I'm not going to fill it in because it's not equal. Not equal. And this sign says less than, so I'm going to point my arrow in the less than direction. Question 5 and 6 are going to have you do the opposite. They're going to have you write the inequality. And it says use x as your variable. So I'm going to use x. This arrow is pointing to all the numbers that are greater than. This dot is filled in, so I'm going to add the or equal to. And what number is that starting point at? -2. So all of my answers are greater than or equal to -2. Part 2, and you might see one that's similar to this, again says use x as your variable. I notice that my arrow is pointing down, so is less than. I'm not going to put the or equal to because there's not a filled in circle there at my starting point. And what is my starting point? It's at 0. Question number 7, you're going to get a variety of one of these questions, and I kind of want to go over each option just to remind you. Remember, when we are solving any inequality, we draw our line down our inequality sign, we find our variable, and then we look for the opposite. We look for what operation there is, so I can do the opposite. So this says +3, so I'm going to do the opposite and -3 from both sides. -12 minus 3 is -15. I bring the sign just how it is, straight down, and the variable straight down. Hey, it's okay that the variable comes second. If you want to rearrange it, that's okay, as long as the alligator mouth still faces the same way. So this one's facing towards -15, so I got to make sure it stays. Question 2, if I draw my line, here's my variable. How do I get rid of a -1? I add 1. So y is less than -10 plus 1 is -9. The last two, especially this one right here, is sometimes a tricky one because even though it says plus, if I subtract 5, I'm not going to get 0. Remember, I need to do the opposite so that this is, when I add them together, is a 0. So on both sides, I'm going to add 5, which gives me v. is less than negative 18 plus 5 is negative 13. And last but not least, okay, draw my line down my equal sign. There's my variable. How do I get rid of that 15? I'm either going to use addition or subtraction because of that sign, but remember to look in front of the 15s. 15 is positive, so I'm going to subtract. Total everything up, and I am left with x is greater than or equal to negative 35. Now remember, I don't have to flip any of my signs because I'm not dividing or multiplying by a negative. But if I do have a problem, like question number 8, which does ask me to multiply or divide by a negative, I need to be super careful. So on number, you're going to get one of these questions, something similar on question number 8. So option number 1, if here's x and here's my line, I need to get rid of negative 3. This is division. We use the opposite, so I'm going to times by negative 3. Total everything up. What's negative 3 times 7? Negative 21. Bring down the x. Now remember, with negatives and multiplying and dividing and inequalities, we need to flip the sign if we multiply by a negative, and there we did. So since I did, I'm going to flip that sign from greater than or equal to less than or equal to. Option number 2, I might have a letter next to a variable. Remember, that means multiplication. So in order to undo that multiplication, I'm going to divide by both sides by negative 2, and I'm left with u. I divided by a negative, so my sign is going to flip, and 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. Now let's look at this last problem. Draw my line. There's x, it's multiplication, so I'm going to use division. Now sometimes people say, oh, there's a negative on that problem, so I need to make sure I flip the sign. And the answer is, remember, I only flip it when the number I'm dividing by, which is the number in the bottom, hey, is a negative, and 5 is positive. So I'm going to leave my sign the same. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. And that is just a review on multiplying and dividing. Now, remember two-step equations, and I'm going to rewrite this over here because I kind of squeezed myself out of room. What am I going to do? I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to identify where my variable is, and then remember, get rid of whatever's further away. So I'm going to first get rid of the 13, and second, get rid of the 3. How do I get rid of the 13? It says plus. I'm going to do the opposite. So it's minus 13. I'm left with 3x. That's 0. I bring down my inequality. 67 minus 13 is 54. And to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by, since it's multiplication, 3. Now, did I divide by a negative? Nope. So my sign's going to stay the same. And 54 divided by 3, let's clear that, is 18. So my answer is 8x is greater than 18. Okay, last example, number 10. I just want to walk you through one more. So I draw my line, I identify where my variable is, I decide what I want to get rid of first. This is further, this is closer. This says minus 10, so I'm going to add 10 to both sides. 2 plus 10 is 12. Bring down my inequality sign, bring down the 4x. This is multiplication, so I'm going to undo it with division. I'm not dividing by a negative, so I just leave it the same. And remember, I bring down the x on the right, and I bring down my number on the left. If you want to turn it around, you can. The smaller side is facing towards the number, so I need to make sure that stays consistent. And last but not least, on this problem, here's my variable. I need to get rid of 22 first, negative 4 second, because 22 is further away, and I'm going to do the opposite. So minusing 22, since it was addition, I'm left with negative 4w is less than negative 20. This is multiplication. I'm going to undo it with division, but wait. I'm dividing by a negative, so my sign is going to change from less than to greater than. And I'm left with w is greater than 5. Those are all the different types that you're going to see on the test. If you do have any, and test review, if you do have any questions, please just reach out. I'm happy to help, and have a great day.